this is a podcast all about Bears. You either cheering for this team or just pulling your hair. I like to take a minute, just sit right back and tell you how I became the #1 Bears fan.
That boy is Benny Hunter.
Cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic. People, this the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. In Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Before I get this episode started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. Before I get this episode started, I have to tell you guys about CBDX. CBDX.com is not your average CBD company. We all tried CBD before. None of it is like the real deal. CBDX is actually the real deal. And CBDX.com ships right to your front door. Right now, my listeners get 20% off their orders at CBDX.com with my promo code KOTM. CBDX makes delicious gummies, amazing flour, all the good stuff. All products look, smell, taste, and feel the same, and they actually all work. CBDX.com is the future. Go to CBDX.com, enter my promo code KOTM for 20% off all orders plus a free gift from the team at CBDX. Don't use CBDX products before driving, operating heavy machinery, or getting tested, obviously. But go to CBDX.com, enter my promo code KOTM for 20% off all orders. CBDX loves football, and that's why they are here. Show CBDX some love and support the show. 20% off plus a free gift when our listeners, my listeners, use promo code KOTM at CBDX.com. So here we go. We can finally, hopefully, forget about the Cleveland Browns game, or at least try to, as the Chicago Bears come back home and take on the Detroit Lions, a game that we know we can win. But can we actually beat the Detroit Lions? Because when I look at the Detroit Lions, yes, they're 0-3, people, but they have been playing super competitive football, and this is really not going to be an easy game. When you look at the Detroit Lions' first 3 games, they actually played pretty competitive football. Of course, they got dealt with the Niners. They were getting blown out. They came back at the end and made it actually a pretty decent game. They were actually in it with the Green Bay Packers, but then, of course, they lost it at the end. And then they were a 66 career or record-setting field goal away from Justin Tucker from being the exact same record, 1-2, just like the Chicago Bears. So this Detroit Lions team is actually a tough opponent. It's a division opponent, a game that the Bears desperately need. But at the moment, after what we saw against the Browns last week, this is actually going to be a much closer game for the Chicago Bears. And even before then, we do know that the Lions are always a tough team to play. It's a division opponent. It doesn't matter how bad this Lions team is. It's going to be a tough game because of us, because of our inabilities on the offensive side of the football. We know what our defense is going to do. We know they're going to come out and play. They just put together 2 good weeks where they were on the field way too long. That's the only reason why our defense is getting tired. When you're on the field for too long, what do you expect to happen? But the defense has put up 2 good weeks, so I know what the defense for the Chicago Bears is going to do. What is the Chicago Bears offense going to do? Or, you know what, better yet, what is Matt Nagy going to do to better get our offense in a position to score some points? Before I go on more to the Chicago Bears offense, when you look at the Detroit Lions roster, of course they had Jared Goff, a guy that we know really well from all the times we played the Rams when he was with the Rams. We know Jared Goff really well. He's a guy that's going to be aggressive. He's going to push the ball down the field. I expect our defense to get after him, hopefully get in his face, get some pressure, and when you do that, Jared Goff is known to turn over the football. He's been playing decent football, actually. He's not doing too bad. But at the same time, he will always be Jared Goff. He's not necessarily the greatest quarterback out there. So I expect Sean Desai, our pass rushers, our defensive line, our cornerbacks, to hopefully peel their ears back and go out there and maybe get some turnovers, try to help our offense a little bit more. But it's like, what else can they do? The only thing I see our defense doing is actually scoring for the offense, which is not as easy as it looks. They can't expect our defense to bail them out all the time. Our defense has been playing really, really good these last couple weeks, but now it's time for the Chicago Bears offense to put up their end of the stick and try to score some points. Help your defense out. It's just frustrating. I can go on and on about the Chicago Bears offense, but we're just got to wait and see. But going back to this Detroit Lion offense, obviously they have Jared Goff at quarterback. Of course, they have DeAndre Swift, a really good second-year running back. I think the Bears defense will match up well with him. I think he is a really good young running back, but I think the Chicago Bears defense will match up well with him. And then, of course, they have Jamal Williams, a guy that they added in the offseason from Green Bay, and I think that was a really good pickup for the Lions. Now they have that two-headed monster with Swift and Williams. I think what teams are going to try to do to the Chicago Bears, because they know that we can't score points, they're going to try to run the football, wear out our defense. Our defense will be good for the first half, right? They're going to be fresh for the first half, but then it gets to a point when your defense is on the field for too long, that's when they break down. So I anticipate that's what the Detroit Lions are going to try to do. Play smash mouth football, use that two-headed monster that they have, and pound the rock and try to wear down this Chicago Bears defense until we finally break, because our offense can't score any points. So, of course, the Lions lost all the receivers in the offseason. Of course, Kenny Golladay went to New York. I believe Marvin Jones went to Jacksonville. They do have a nice young receiver named Quintez Cephas. He's been playing some really, really good football. But nothing stands out to me about the Detroit Lions receivers that our secondary can't handle. I'm actually really surprised about the Chicago Bears secondary so far and how well they've been playing. So I anticipate this is going to be a really good matchup for the Chicago Bears defense. So I'm not really too concerned when it comes to our defense. I think they're going to handle their business like always. It's just going to depend on what can the Chicago Bears offense do to help our defense out. So now looking at this Chicago Bears offense, obviously Matt Nagy just had his press conference, and the first thing the media asked him, who is going to be calling the plays? And like always, he dodged the question, because that's what Matt Nagy does best, is dodges questions. He said that he's going to keep it internal. So I'm just going to go off a whim and say that I think Bill Lazor may be calling the plays. Obviously, it's going to be obvious if Matt Nagy's calling the plays, because if he is calling the plays, that means he probably won't score any points, people. It's very obvious. If Bill Lazor's calling the plays, I think there will be more creativity with this offense, maybe giving David Montgomery the ball more than freaking 10 times. You'll know if Matt Nagy is calling the plays or not. The second thing Matt Nagy mentioned in his press conference is that it's between Andy Dalton and Justin Fields to start. I guess Andy Dalton is ready to go, which I don't think the dude can even run. I think he's still hurt. So if he puts Andy Dalton out there, shame on Matt Nagy. Obviously, when you look at the injury report, it said that Justin Fields practiced in full, and Andy Dalton was limited. So we're going to have to see. I think we put Justin Fields back out there. You can't let a rookie have a game like he did where he went 6 for 20, even though it wasn't all his fault. It was primarily on Matt Nagy. But you can't have a young rookie go 6 for 20, have a game that he wants to forget, and just let him sit there on the sideline and just let it sink in with him. I think Justin Fields needs to be on this field for this game. And this was a lot of fans' expectation that this is the game that Justin Fields would have started. And I think it's the perfect opportunity for not only Justin Fields, but for the Chicago Bears offense to have a rebound game. I think the game plan should be very simple. If Justin Fields is playing, get him out of the pocket. Of course, establish the run with David Montgomery. Give him more than 10 carries. He is a top 10 running back in the NFL. If you guys don't believe that, that's okay. But I strongly believe that David Montgomery is a top 10 NFL running back in this league. Give David Montgomery the ball. Try to get the ball to your big tight ends. Try to get the ball to Allen Robinson. It's absolutely ridiculous that we weren't able to get the ball to our playmakers. We have too many playmakers not to get the ball to them. So I'm really curious to see what the game plan is, if there is actually a game plan for Matt Nagy in this Chicago Bears offense. Something that I have to get off my chest to you Bears fans on this podcast today is that these are the type of games that Matt Nagy wins. Obviously, everyone in Chicago, including myself, wants Matt Nagy gone. He should have packed this shit up after the Browns game and not even returned to Chicago. It's to the point where he's that bad. If he doesn't give up, if they don't fire him, he at least needs to give up play calling. They need to do something. But these are the type of games that Matt Nagy wins. He beats the bad teams and loses to the good teams. So when you're playing against the bad teams, it's easy to hide your flaws because that team also sucks just like you do. But when you play the good teams, that's when Matt Nagy gets exposed, and that's when we can really tell that Matt Nagy doesn't know what the hell he is actually doing. So if the Chicago Bears go out here and for some reason blow out the Lions, which it could possibly happen because Detroit's also not a very good team. Yes, they've been playing competitive football, but don't let them fool you. Detroit is still not there yet. They're still not quite there. It's definitely a game that I can see the Bears come out and they rebound and maybe beat this team maybe like 27-10 for some reason. Maybe because our defense gets a couple of turnovers and they help the offense score or help them put them in situations where the offense can actually get the ball in the end zone. But I just want to get this off my chest because if the Bears do go and do that, I don't want people to be like, oh, look at the problem is fixed. No, the problem is not fixed. If we beat the Detroit Lions, that's because we're supposed to beat the Detroit Lions. And I can't stress that enough. This is what Matt Nagy has done for the last 4 years as the Chicago Bears head coach. Beats the bad teams, but loses. Not only loses, but gets embarrassed to the really good teams. And that's when Matt Nagy gets exposed. I just had to get that off my chest. I'm not sure how you guys feel about that. But if Matt Nagy is calling the plays and the offense can't score against the Detroit Lions and we get embarrassed by the Detroit Lions, he needs to be fired. And if he isn't fired, that's a huge FU to all the Chicago Bears fans around the world. That tells me that they do not care about winning. They do not care about Justin Fields' development. They are just in it for the money, and that is it. So I expect the Chicago Bears to come out and win this football game. And if they do, and they come out and blow the Lions out, I don't want to hear any hoorah. They're supposed to do that. Detroit's not a good football team. But mark my words. If they lose to Detroit and get embarrassed by Detroit at home in front of the Chicago Bears fans at Soldier Field, Matt Nagy better be fired on Monday morning. And I know every week that I give my 3 keys to a Chicago Bears win. Well, here's my 3 keys this week. Play better, coach better, and execute. Very simple. Go out, handle business, win your second game of the year against a bad Detroit Lions team. And I'm not taking anything away from Detroit. They played competitive football like I mentioned. But you should be able to handle the Detroit Lions at home in front of your fans. The fans, I don't even know why they're showing up. So Matt Nagy, I hope you gave up play calling. And I hope you guys set up a game plan, especially if Justin Fields is going out there again. I hope you set up a game plan that actually suits Justin Fields' skills. Because if you didn't, and you let him go out there and you let the Detroit Lions defense go out there and sack him 9 times for some crazy reason, it's going to be hard for me to watch Bears football until Matt Nagy is fired. Of course, I'll still come on here and do podcasts. But it's going to be really hard for me to watch Chicago Bears football as Matt Nagy would still be the head coach. And at that point, if you lose the Detroit Lions and you just have no game plan for the Detroit Lions in order to beat the Detroit Lions, it would be hard for me to watch Chicago Bears football. So those are my 3 keys. Play better, coach better, and actually execute a game plan if you actually have one. So my final score for this game, my final score, and this is crazy that I'm even thinking that Detroit has a chance. And they actually do, because look where our head coach is. Why would I be confident? Why should we be confident after what we did against the Cleveland Browns? We shouldn't be confident. They need to go out there and prove it to us. Go out there and beat the crap out of the sorry-ass Detroit Lions, and then maybe I'll have, I don't know, maybe a little bit more confidence, even though Detroit's also a bad team. But I think the Bears win this game, and I don't think it's going to be easy, especially if the offense continues to not put up points. It's not going to be easy. So I am going to give the Chicago Bears the win by a score of 16-13. And I know in past weeks I've gave the Bears, I predicted the Bears would put up 20 points, but it seems like they can't even get to that number. They averaged 13.3 points a game in the first 3 weeks of the NFL season. So I'm giving the Chicago Bears 16 points against the Detroit Lions, and I think our defense, because it's the Detroit Lions, will be able to hang on for us in order for us to seal a 16-13 win. And that is sad to me. This is definitely a game that we need, but I don't think it matters because the schedule just gets tough after the Detroit Lions. So like always, comment down below, how are you guys feeling about the whole Matt Nagy situation? Who do you think should start in this game, Justin Fields or Andy Dalton? And predict the score down below in the comment section. But before I let you go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode to Kick on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. And don't forget to go to cbdx.com, type in the promo code KOTM, and get 20% on your order. But other than that, I'll be back for all new Bears podcasts right here on Kick on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and bear down.
Riding with country bear. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.
This year, I'm betting the football season with MyBookie. When betting with MyBookie, you'll receive a 100% match on your very first deposit up to $1,000.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
Betting with MyBookie this season was the obvious choice for me because every time this happens,
Touchdown Bears!
or this happens,
80-yard touchdown run!
I win. The best part about this whole thing is that you can support the show by using the promo code KOTM. So Bears fans, what are you waiting for? Go to mybookie.ag, use my promo code KOTM, and receive a 100% match on your first deposit up to $1,000 and make it a winning season with MyBookie today.